Shalom, Israel. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. All right, do a quick lesson, Lord willing, going into the appointed time. All right, typically and chiefly dealing with the feasts of the Lord. All right, how should we keep them? Um, and when should we keep 'em? All right. I was having a conversation with my rib about this. And so this kind of what sparked the idea of the class. All right. So let's go to the book of Psalms. Psalms chapter 83 and 81 and verse 3. Psalms chapter 81 and verse 3. All right. The Bible says, so this one here is about the new moon, right? But watch what it says. It says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the appointed time. All right. It says on our solemn feast day. All right. So when you go into appointed time here, let's go into it. Appointed time. Here, the appointed time for the new moon is the full moon. All right. So the time when we blow up the trumpet for the new moon is signified by the signs in the sky that the Most High gave us. All right. And that would be us seeing a full bright moon. All right. So it's important to do it at this time. All right. I know a lot of times, sometimes, in Israel, will some congregations they'll get together, they'll celebrate the feast days together, and a lot of times it's really out of sincerity, brothers and sisters genuinely just wanting to congregate, right, and be around each other, to love on each other, and that in itself is not wrong as far as the intention, right? But we have to remember what the Most High said to do, right? He says to do it at an appointed time, all right? Now, there's nothing wrong with congregating or just getting together, brothers and sisters going and doing stuff, even if you're not in the same congregation, right? There are different congregations. You may be different, or your congregation may be different than this congregation by a few scriptures as far as doctrine goes, right? That's all right. The Lord is going to straighten all that out when we get in the wilderness. But when we do serve the Lord, we want to make sure that we're doing it out of sincerity and in truth, meaning we're standing firm and we're doing what we're doing by the book, basically, right? So as far as the new moon, the Bible says to keep it at the appointed time. And for us, that appointed time will be the full moon. All right. So now let's go to the book of Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 23. All right, I'm going to start at verse 1. So you see here laws of religious festivals. So this is where you find the feast days of the Lord at. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy, holy convocations. Even these are my feasts. All right, so these are holy convocations. The word holy literally means set apart. All right, let's go into it. On to the word holy, kodash, or kodesh. All right, hallowed, holiness, dedicated. All right, it says apartness. All right, separateness. All right, so just starting off right here, when you think about the feast days of the Lord, they're to be separate, right? They each have an appointed time that's assigned to them, right? So for instance, you shouldn't be keeping Feast of Tabernacles 2 or 3 times in the year. That's not keeping that feast day holy, right? A lot of times we'll do that, right? Brothers and sisters will do that in the spirit of trying to be loving to one another. And that's okay. The intention behind it is good, right? But we have to do what the Bible says as far as his feast days, right? Let's go back. So we have to keep it set apart, like the Lord said. Now, can you go on just a camping trip with your brothers and sisters that you know? Of course, y'all might be in different congregations, and you can just take a camping trip. But the Feast of Tabernacles is not a camping trip. You understand? It's a set apart feast day. All right. So it says, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocation, even these are my feasts. They're not our feasts. It's the Lord's feast day. You understand? So we have to do it the way he said to do it. All right, let's keep going. It says, 6 days shall work be done, but in the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. Right? So not the fifth day, not the fourth day, not the seventh day of the month. The seventh day of every week is the Lord's Sabbath day. You understand? We have to keep the Sabbath on that day, that appointed time. It says, in holy convocation, ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Right? It says, these are the feasts of the Lord. He said it again. They're not our feasts. These are the feasts of the Lord. Right? It says, even holy convocations. All right. It says, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. All right. So let's go into this word, this phrase, in their seasons. Right. So it's not a thing where it's like it's the season of it. So we're gonna be doing it all season and whenever. No, that's not what the Lord is saying. Moed, right? Let's go into this word. So it says appointed place, appointed time, right? So the Lord is saying, I want you to do this at a specific time and at a specific place. You understand? We have to do what the Lord said as far as keeping his feast days. It says, in general, right here, appointed time. This is a sacred season. This is a sacred time, a set feast, appointed season. All right. So let's go up here real quick. Yeah. So it's appointed time. It was something else I wanted. All right. So down here, you see here in the Strong's definition, it says a fixed time, right? Or season. It's a fixed time, right? So we have to do it at the set time. It says here, set time, not just 3 times in the month or you keeping Passover 3 times. That's off according to the Bible. We're not supposed to do that. All right. So, I mean, somebody probably say, well, you being over righteous. Well, the Bible, there's no such thing as keeping the commandments too much. There's no such thing as being too circumspect. Right. It says here, solemnity. All right. It's solemnity. You hear the Lord say it's a solemn feast. What is solemnity? All right. Solemnity. It says the state or quality of being serious, dignified, and earnest. This is a serious thing, right? It's not a cookout. It's not a get together. It's not a damn potluck. It's not a thing where we could just play around with it. It's a serious thing. You understand? Just because you may have earnest intentions, your earnest intentions can get you killed. If they're not according to what the Lord said. Let's go to the book of First Samuel. All right, let's go to First Samuel. Uh, I might be Second Samuel. Think about it. Yeah, let's go to Second Samuel. Second Samuel chapter 6. All right. Second Samuel chapter 6. And let's start at verse 5. All right. It says, and David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps and on psalteries and on timbrels and on cornets and on cymbals. It says, and when they came to Nacon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. So this is when we had just got the ark of the covenant back from the Philistines, right? Everybody was excited. Everybody was happy, right? That we had got the ark of the covenant back from the heathen, right? And as we journeying back to our home with the Ark of the Covenant, the oxen probably stepped in a hole. For some reason, the Ark of the Covenant was about to fall, right? It says, and Uzzah put forth his hand. What was Uzzah doing? Putting forth his hand to catch the Ark of the Covenant from falling onto the ground. Right? Verse 7, it says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and Yahweh smote him there for his error. What was his error? Nobody was supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant, right? Even when it came to carrying the Ark of the Covenant, we had wooden poles that went through the loops on the Ark of the Covenant so that it can be carried. We couldn't directly carry or touch the Ark of the Covenant. And even then, specific people were assigned to do that. When you go into it, it's the Kohathites of the tribe of Levi. So everything is specific with the Lord, right? The Most High is not all over the place and kind of just do your own thing, right? So this brother put his hand forth to catch the Ark of the Covenant, and it says, and the Lord smote him for his error, right? And there he died by the Ark of the Most High, the Ark of Yahweh, right? The Lord split him in two. Now his intentions was good. The brother had decent and pure intentions, but he wasn't following the instructions of the Lord. What you come to find out in this truth, man, is that the small things will cost you, right? Overlooking the details will cost you, right? Let's go to another example. Now, this brother had pure intentions, but it cost him his life. Let's go to Numbers chapter 20. All right, let's start at verse 1. It says, then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people chode with Moses and spake, saying, would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. It says, and why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into the wilderness, into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And wherefore have you made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us into this evil place? It is no place of seed or of figs or of vines or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went forth from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. So the people of Israel were complaining that they were not having, that they didn't have no snacks to eat, basically, right? And that they didn't have any water. So Israel, Moses and Aaron went to pray. and the Lord appeared. Verse 7 says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So shalt thou give the congregation and their beasts drink. Right? So the Lord gave Moses specific instructions. He said, take the rod, gather the assembly, and speak unto the rock before their eyes, and water is going to come out of that rock. Right? Verse 9, and Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation before the rock. And he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch ye water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. So what happened here? Moses followed 2 out of the 3 steps, right? He got the rod, he gathered the congregation together, but instead of speaking to the rock, he hit the rock twice. Now, good came out of this. The congregation was able to get water, right, abundantly. But watch what the Lord said, verse 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not. He said, look, you don't believe. You didn't do exactly what I told you to do. You don't believe, right? To sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore, ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I give them. This literally cost Moses his ability to go into the promised land. The Lord said, you're going to die before they go into the promised land. I'm going to let you see it, but you won't go into the promised land, right? Now, that's not to say that Moses won't get the kingdom, but it did cost him in his life, right? It cost him in his life. So this is letting us know the personality of the Most High, right? A person in the world would say the Lord, well, he being over righteous. Well, the Lord is righteous, and we ought to be righteous as well, right? We ought to adhere to the standard that the Most High gives to us. We cannot lower the bar. We cannot heighten the bar. The bar is already set. We've already have instructions. That's what Torah means, right? That's what the law, Torah, means, literally instructions. You understand? And if you try to build something and you don't follow the instructions, it might work for a little while, but it's not gonna last. Not as long as if you would have followed those instructions. You understand? So it's foolish to overlook the small things. I know you may look at it and see good coming out of it, but that doesn't mean the Lord is pleased. Just like when Moses hit the rock twice, good came out of it. The congregation of Israel got watered, but the Lord was not pleased, right? So the same thing with these feast days. You want to keep them at the appointed time. You don't want to just do your own thing, right? If you believe the new moon is the dark moon, then keep it on the dark moon. You understand? If you think it's the full moon, keep it on the full moon. The moon determines when your feast start, right? And it's brother, typically it's 3 moons, brothers keep: the dark, the full, or the crescent. All right, I don't know of any other new moons brothers keep, right? But those are typically the 3. If you believe it's the dark moon, then set your feast days around that time, because that would be the appointed time, right? And vice versa, if you think it's the crescent or the full moon, right? But you want to be steadfast in your understanding, right? You want to let your heart be established, right? In whatever it is that you adhere to, right? So keeping the new moon 3 times in the month, that's not biblical, right? Keeping Feast of Tabernacles 3 times in the year, it's not biblical, right? None of that is biblical. That's political. You understand? And we gotta be set apart. Right. So most high willing, you got something out of this, right? All honor, glory, and praise to the most high God, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, his brother Nashon, New Wine Congregation of Israel. Shalom.